All right, boys. We're getting to the end of the season. Low scores need to be met with drastic action. To that end, we'll be having a special chug, still a full pint. But with a little car bomb action. Bottoms up.
Where's my Chick-fil-A? That was disgusting.
We will be victorious.
Blue Medical 10, lowest score of the week. It only makes sense that I finished. This is the end of the season. This is the end of the line. So I'm going to say it one more time. Reigning champion, Blue Medical 10. Here we go. Beer chuggers do.
All right, fellas, another week.
This is day 3, London, and we're off to... Sarah, tell Daddy where we're going.
We're going to Big Ben.
That's right, Big Ben. Oh, there it is, sweetie. It's right there. Honey, are you getting this?
Come here, Daddy.
She's really hyper today. Sarah, don't go too far.
Birds! Look, Mommy, there's birds!
That's your daughter. You know she gets that from you.
All right, hello, and welcome back to Behind the Lines with Gabe and Kev. It's been a while. How you doing, Kev?
Oh, it's good. Life's good. Fantasy season is not as good, but as always, it's good to do another episode. And congratulations to you. Congratulations to the other 6 that made the playoffs, and those that'll be joining me in the Poop Bowl. Best of luck, I suppose, to avoid the punishment. So happy to talk some football, though.
Yeah, absolutely. No better time to get into it than now. Good to see everybody here. Hope you're watching. Hold on. Clicked on the wrong button. There we go. Going ahead and taking a look here at Week 14. As always, we'll do some quick hits review on this. My matchup, I was able to beat Henry. I think I was almost guaranteed in the playoffs no matter what, especially if my team put up this score. But beating Henry puts me to 8-6, and I actually have higher points for, so I overtake him into 5th place, putting up 181, the highest of the season by a manager this year. Only 11 away from my record of all-time high at 192, so proving that, I can still get up there. Highlighted by Jamar Chase with 45, Jordan Addison with 40, Waddle had a good game with 20, Achane continues to put up about 19, 20 every week, and then Joe Burrow kind of faltered there in the first half. He was sitting around 13, 15 points, and then in the second half ended up turning it on. They came back against Dallas, and he finished with 28, including an interception. And obviously Will Dissly, he caught his second ball and went down at the last play of the first half, and he's expected to miss multiple weeks now. So I kind of got a tight end issue with the same nagging tight end issue that I've had all season. But we secure a playoff spot, streaming a couple of guys, Travis Etienne, and normally I probably would start Tank Dell over either Jalen Waddle or Addison, but going forward I'm not so sure. Ramondre Stevenson obviously slots in over ETM for the time being, but looking at Henry's team, he had some good scores too. Tua put up 27, Tyreek Hill put up 28, Devontae put up 26. Of course, the donut from Jaden Reed, and then, streaming Jonnu Smith in the flex. I guess not streaming anymore. He's had him for a couple of weeks, but starting 2 tight ends in the flex going into the playoffs, not great, but he puts up 13 here, and you put up a respectable score at 126, but when your opponent puts up 181, you're just never winning.
Yeah, I don't have a ton to add. I mean, the Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase stack has been doing it all season, and I know that, it's kind of the main reason you've got to the playoffs, and of course they continue to get it done. So, if you're going to win a championship, those guys would be, a big reason why. So if they keep getting it done, and you're starting to feel the benefits of that. But a good win here, a good score, and Henry, obviously, not a bad week. It sucks to get a donut on Thursday night. That's always a bad feeling, but nothing much he can really do here. But, despite the loss, he's in the playoffs. You're in the playoffs. So I think both teams are probably, pretty content with where they are, considering all things.
Yeah. Moving on to our next matchup, we had Alex taking on Noah. Alex wasn't able to get it done with the Yoshivas. He came down to him versus Brandon Cooks, and Brandon Cooks caught the late touchdown, really pushed Noah over the edge and secured his win. He had some great scores. Obviously, Nakua with 42, and then Baker with 21, Jahmyr Gibbs with 20. Other than that, though, it was pretty mid. Bucky Irving only with 2.8, went out with another injury. Mike Evans only with 11, Drake London with 12. And then obviously had to stream Brandon Cooks over Nico. And then TJ with 8.5. I mean, lucky for Noah to get a win here. He puts up a solid score. Does get him to 10-4 and secures him the 3rd seed. He thought that this could potentially push him into the bye week, but even Tal, I believe, has more points for than him. Noah actually is one of the lowest points for in the league. He mentioned it himself, potential fraud watch, but he stays in 3rd, maybe gives him a more favorable matchup for the playoffs. I believe Alex is now playing me in the playoffs, so had Noah lost this game, he would be playing me, and things could look differently. But he gets the win here, and Alex's team just couldn't get it done.
Yeah, I think the key thing here is Bucky Irving's situation. Bucky's been such a revelation in the NFL this season, a new rookie out of Oregon, and I picked him up off the waivers. Noah traded him from me, or traded for him from me. We haven't talked about that on pod, but
yeah.
That was a very, last minute deal. I just wanted to get one solid player that I could rely on to not lose the poop bowl. And he wanted to add some depth with Drake London and Bucky. But with Bucky going down, obviously to be determined how significant that injury is. But if it is significant, that's going to hurt. Because then it looks like Brandon Cooks could be, well, not even then, actually. He wouldn't really have a good RB2 at all.
No.
So it would be...
No. I mean, he has Tajay Spears.
It would be trouble in paradise.
He does have Sean Tucker, at least. So
True.
But Sean Tucker would definitely be the running back, too, because, I mean, Rashad White has kind of resurged in the last 5-6 weeks and shown, really good performances, both football and fantasy-wise.
Yeah, Bucky took some of that role, but I don't think Sean Tucker really is going to do that. So
at least not this year. He just hasn't had enough time in the offense.
Yeah, certainly not this year. So we'll see how that goes for Noah, but definitely a tough loss going into the playoffs. And then Alex, loses this game, but he's on the playoffs 4 seed. Can't complain too much. His team is pretty healthy right now. So we'll see if Breece Hall plays as well. He was out for this week, but I think he should be okay going forward. So. Same with Ladd McConkey. Not significant. But good win for Noah. Another win for him.
Yeah,
keep him rolling.
Moving forward, we had yours. You ended up beating Sam by 1.1, and you thought that it was going to benefit you to actually make it into the play-in game and not have to have the bye, but it doesn't go that way.
Yeah. I thought he was only 1 game ahead of me. He was actually 2 games ahead of me. So this game literally meant nothing. It was actually a really good game. I won by 1, but there's not really a point in diving into this since it actually didn't change anything. Sam was the 9 seed. He's going to remain the 9 seed. I was the 10 seed. I remained the 10 seed. We'll just go for it. I missed the play-in game. I was pretty disappointed when I found out I was actually 2 games behind him, but I digress. We'll just go for it. At least I can show I can beat some play-in teams.
Hey.
So, Poop Bowl Incorporated, they cloned Tyrone to other teams that are going to miss the playoffs. Obviously, the main storyline here, Eli.
First up.
A very good game, finally. Definitely his season high. I mean, I don't know that for sure.
No,
I'm just
it
going
is.
to assume.
It is.
Yeah, it has to be. And gets his first win of the year. I mean, at least he didn't go 0-14.
Yes.
We still haven't seen that, so he dodges the bullet. The all-time losing record is still like obviously broken, but like it's you can break it. You can't only tie it.
It
So
is almost
um,
mathematically impossible. And I know we said this last year, but like losing 13 in a row, and not just 13 in a row, the first 13 games in a row.
Yeah.
Like, you did, obviously a week 1 win screws all of, you could win week 1 and then lose 13 straight and go 1-13, but the fact that it's happened 2 years in a row where a guy loses the first X amount of the games of the year straight, and it was 10 and now it's 13, and it's really just, I don't know how to, it's like a mathematical paradox.
yeah, I can't imagine it gets broken again. But I mean, I guess we'll see.
We'll have to up the
Um,
punishment for it. It'll have to be like 2x full buy-in.
yeah, I agree. But he gets the win here, 135 to 123. Big game from James Conner, massive game from Zach Charbonnet. This
Sharp.
actually cost me a buy. This cost me a buy in our dynasty league because Henry had Zach Charbonnet in that league and got the buy over me, but because of the points for advantage and just a monstrous game from Zach Charbonnet, and that ends up kind of propelling him to the win here. Al not with a bad week. He got some production out of his Rams players, Kyron and Stafford and Chase Brown, but kind of some other duds across the board. And Tyrone Tracy with a pretty solid game, but Eli with the win will stomp Al's, smush any hope that Al had of getting into the playoffs. I don't think he
He
would have
needed a
gotten in
lot to
anyways,
happen.
but
What needed to
this
have
was
happened?
obviously
Because, sorry, I'm not trying to cut you off, but Eli got to 135, and then all of his guys were done. And then Al, I believe, was at like 103 or something like that. He had 2 guys left. It was Chase Brown and Jake Ferguson, if I'm not mistaken. And Al knew what he needed to beat Eli. He would have had to get 136. And if he were to do that, that would have given him enough points to overtake Wyatt in points for, because Wyatt had already guaranteed the loss to Henry, and Al would have overtaken him for the 7th seed. So there was a realistic possibility. I mean, obviously, you look at it now, Al was 12 points away from making the playoffs, but tough.
yeah. I mean, so I don't. So at 123, he was out. Even if he wins this game, I guess say Eli scores 80.
No, if
Al
he
wins.
gets 123, he's in, because
What about
Wyatt only scored 105, and at the time
Okay.
Al was only behind Wyatt in points for by like 11. So
So did he get more?
he did.
Oh wow. Oh yeah, he did by 5.
Yeah.
Damn, that would have
So-
been crazy. So Eli's goal this season was to play spoiler, and I'd
He
say
did.
this is
It counts.
the definition. This is the definition of playing spoiler. Yeah, for sure.
I mean, you think about it. Had Eli not started Sharb, like Al wins and Al's in the playoff.
Yeah, damn. Well, I'm sure Eli will take that. His goals were to win a game and to play spoiler. So
He did both of those and not lose the football. He's
He
got 2 out of 3.
Yeah, he accomplishes 2 of them in the same exact week. Wins the game. Al will be in football playoffs, I should say. Congrats, Eli. That's pretty funny.
Yeah, it's definitely good stuff. We love to see a little late season spoiler. And then, speaking of what was almost a spoiler, Charlie beats Wyatt 126 to 105. Wyatt could have spoiled Charlie with the win and prevented him from getting the first round bye. Obviously, Charlie was well ahead in points for to everybody else. And then in the other direction, almost the spoiler in terms of Wyatt scored low enough that where Al scored enough. If he had just won, it would have been the spoiler for Wyatt. Either way, though, we got to talk about it. Josh Allen puts up 58 fucking points. I mean, the definition of getting jawed. And just speaking about real football, the fact that they lose that game, you put up 42 and you
it's so
lose,
crazy,
it's
yeah.
outrageous. No wonder that,
6 total touchdowns, bro.
yeah, Puka put up 42 in that game, and then Kyron and Matt Stafford both put up 25 each.
Also put up 20. Like
yeah.
the whole Rams team put up
It's
20.
insane. And then you look at the rest of his team, and it's pretty mid. I mean, JSN and CD Lamb put up 20 each, but other than that, nobody in double digits. Kareem Hunt, Jerome Ford combined for 11. Evan Ingram was 7. Keenan Allen was 6. Trey Tucker with 2.7. And now I get it. You had guys like Derrick Henry, Mark Andrews, I guess, is your start-sit decision on bye. You could have made some right decisions in starting Ray McLeod over Trey Tucker. Obviously, that's a flip-flop, and he got the win anyway. But not really looking hot for Charlie going into the playoffs. Thankfully, he does get the bye. But the team has just fallen off in terms of depth and, quality aside of, 3 or 4 key positions.
Yeah, I agree. I think Kareem Hunt's value is pretty much gone.
It's 0.
With Rashee Rice returning. So, obviously he does have Derrick Henry, so that's good to have, of course. But, other than CD, Derrick Henry, and Josh Allen, it's, and JSN. I'll give JSN.
Yeah, that's why I said 3 to 4 players. It's slim pickings.
Yeah, it's definitely looking like a top-heavy squad now, but the top is very loaded. So, if you get a game like this from Josh Allen, it's kind of hard to lose. He only put up 126.
Yeah, you take away the 58 points, he put up 66.
Yeah.
68.
This could have easily been a sub-100 game in the playoffs if you don't get the massive Josh Allen game, which is one of the best fantasy football games of all time. So I wouldn't count on it typically occurring, but he gets the win here, he gets the bye. So who am I to speak? I'm in 10th place. He is in first.
Yeah, hey.
But credit to Wyatt. He gets into the playoffs yet again. Not really on his own doing this week, at least. He kind of lucks into it, but he set himself up well a few weeks ago by getting some wins. So he's definitely on a cold streak right now, I think, which is bad vibes going into the playoffs. And I think he would agree. But once you're in, I won it all as 17 last year. Anything is possible once you're in. Yeah. So you can flip the script once you're in and just get hot, and you never know. So getting in, and Wyatt will be in.
Yeah, we can go ahead and move on to what should be the last matchup of this week. It was Riley Reid option versus Jefferson Starship. Finally, Bennett's team puts up a really respectable score, 136 to 128 was the final, which is crazy that it was that close. Had Tal won, he immediately secures himself the bye because nobody else could have gotten to 11 wins. Unfortunately, it doesn't happen for him. Bennett's team highlighted by guys like Justin Jefferson putting up 32, Garendo off the $100 fab pickup puts up 27 points and then gets injured and may not play for the rest of the playoffs. We'll see. David Njoku 17, Jerry Jeudy 17, Malik Neighbors 15, and then your running backs combined for less than 10, which is horrible. And there's something to be said about starting Nick Chubb over Rachaad White, especially against Pittsburgh, who has notoriously one of the best D-lines in the league year after year. But he gets the win anyway. Ends up being a pretty high-scoring shootout because of Sam Darnold putting up 44 points on Tal's side, and then you had a couple of other decent performances. Juwan Jennings with 28 was great, and then a couple of guys around 12 to 10, Amon-Ra, Tyler Algier, Calvin Ridley, and then everybody else under 10. Wasn't able to get it done, and any start-sit decision that Tal made would not have helped him because the 2 guys he had active put up donuts, and everybody else was on bye. So good on Tal for being able to put up 128 with 2 consistent starters in Joe Mixon and Jaden Daniels on bye, but you're hoping that I guess you're hoping in hindsight that you would have gotten the bye and then had an easy walk into at least the semifinals, but now he's got to play.
Yeah, he's got to play, but credit to Tal for a really good season. So I know this will be his first playoff appearance in Dalton FFL, so congrats, Tal, for getting in. And
I do want to say, at the draft at my place downstairs right here, 4 or 5 months ago, Tal said before the draft, the only thing that I want to do this season is have a competitive roster, a team that can compete for a win each week. And he was and have a chance of making it into the playoffs. And you did well more than that, obviously. So congrats to you, pal. You deserve this good performance after 2 bad showings the past couple of years.
Yeah, absolutely. He's in, and it will, with the win here, kind of really only does nothing but play spoiler. He remains in 11th, and will play me actually. But I think we're ready to go ahead and hop into a preview of the playoffs.
Yeah, let's do it.
Exciting stuff. So we only got 4 games to cover.
Yes, and as you guys know, we'll go ahead and actually. Can I find the playoffs?
So should we do the playoffs first, or do you want to do the Poop Bowl playoffs? Yeah, you can do the winners bracket.
I was kind of just going to show at least the. Oh well, I was hoping it would show the bracket. Oh, there it is.
Oh, I
Bracket
see.
top right. Just to make sure that everybody is clear on how this works, Charlie, the first seed, gets the singular bye. He will automatically move on to play in round 2, which is week 16. Me being the 5 seed will play Alex in the 4 seed. The winner of that, I believe, goes on to play Charlie, but it may be done based on seeding. It's
There's no reseeding, I don't think.
Oh, so it's just I go straight in if I win to Charlie.
Yeah, I don't think there's reseeding.
Well, there should be. That's unfortunate. Maybe we do that manually. Should we make that decision?
We'd have to vote on that. I'm not in, so it doesn't really matter to me.
Okay.
I don't think there's reseeding though.
But normally it's like if the 1 seed gets the bye, he plays the lowest remaining seed.
Is there reseeding? Well, that's what reseeding is.
Yes.
I didn't think that existed.
I'll look into it. At the moment, it's not
It
that
definitely
way.
it definitely doesn't exist because I know last year Al was the 1 seed, I was the 7 seed, and I won my first matchup,
Yeah,
and I didn't play
yeah.
Al until the championship
Yeah,
game.
that's true.
So
Okay.
I know last year we did not do reseeding, but I mean it's up to
Okay.
you guys. If you guys can vote on it, if you want, I'm not.
We can leave
bothered
it
by
and
the
discuss it for
decision.
next year. But either way, Henry will play Noah, the 6 seed, versus the 3 seed, and Wyatt will play Tal, the 7 versus the 2. And then in the Poop Bowl playoffs, Eli, obviously, with the worst record, will get the bye and automatically advance into round 2. It is win and out in the Poop Bowl playoffs. If you win a game, you do not have to do the punishment. The 2 teams that have not won a game will end up in the Poop Bowl itself in week 17, and that will decide the Poop Bowl loser. The play-in game, the only game that really matters in this Poop Bowl matchup here this week, is Swifties for Smirnoff versus They Clone Tyrone. Kevin and Bennett also get the bye. So there was a little bit of confusion at some point in the season. People thought that Eli's the only one that gets the bye. It is actually the bottom 3 seeds that get the bye, and then the 8 and the 9 seed do a play-in game to see who will play Eli in round 2. We will go ahead and start it off here with the playoff round 1 matchup in the Poop Bowl. Swifties for Smirnoff versus They Clone Tyrone. Sam clocking in at 6-8. Al also at 6-8. This is the play-in game. This is, your first opportunity in week 1 of the Poop Bowl playoffs to get a win and avoid having to suffer the consequences. And if we look at the previous matchups here, Sam has won the previous 2 matchups, a low-scoring one in week 1 and then, a little bit higher-scoring one in week 12. He's currently under-projected by 7 points, and let's dive in and see what the key matchups are going to be. Obviously, straight off the bat, Lamar Jackson and Zay Flowers against the Giants is a key matchup for Al. That should net him a lot of points. The Giants have been really bad, both offensively and defensively, and so you would expect that the Ravens are going to put on a shootout and stomp them there. Kyron Williams against Sam Fran is, they've been a tough defense so far, but the offense hasn't been that hot, and so it's likely that, Rams are probably going to have most time of possession. And I would imagine that Kyron's probably going to put up, somewhere around projected. Similar to Chase Brown, the Titans' offense just hasn't been that good. So I think Cincinnati's going to have a lot of time of possession. But different from the Rams, Cincinnati's defense is really bad. So if Tennessee is able to keep that game close and into a shootout, Chase Brown could not see a ton of action. And then as we look further down, Terry McLaurin against New Orleans is an okay matchup. Their defense has kind of fallen off ever since they traded away a couple defensive players earlier this year. And then looking at Jake Ferguson against Carolina, that's a really good matchup, but Dallas's offense has also not been good. They put up 30 against Cincinnati on Monday, but as I said, Cincinnati's defense is pretty rough. And then Marvin Harrison and Adam Thielen against New England and Dallas, respectively. And then flipping over to Sam's side of the ball, Pat Mahomes versus Cleveland. They've got a really stout defense, and Patrick Mahomes has been kind of mid overall this year. He's had a couple of good games here and there, but tough defense. We'll see if he's able to score some points. Rico Dowdle against Carolina is a really good matchup to mention. If that game ends up being fairly low scoring, you could see Rico Dowdle with a lot of action. Garrett Wilson against Jacksonville, that's a really good matchup for Sam. Jacksonville's defense is, I think, one of the worst in the league, and the Jets, even though they're playing for nothing, they still want to go out and show that, they can actually win some games. So Garrett Wilson should see plenty of action. Khalil Shakir against Detroit is a tough one, but both of these teams, the Bills and the Lions, have proven that they'll go into a game and just go into absolute shootouts with other teams, so you could see a lot of action. Amari Cooper is kind of a tough start here against Detroit. You're starting 2 Bills receivers. which is, I mean, it's just tough. The Bills score a lot of points, but you got to think about how many of those points go to Josh Allen, and then in the times where they don't go to Josh Allen, they go to James Cook too. So a lot of competition among skill position players there, and then Josh Jacobs against Seattle, pretty solid matchup. He should do fine. Just looking at it, I'd have to give the advantage to Al. I think he's got the more complete roster, not starting two receivers on the same team, and just the quality of players overall I think is better, but anything can happen. Sam won these last two matchups, and Sam could easily win again and get out of the poop bowl here.
Yeah, I just think the matchups on both sides are pretty strong. Or strong meaning like good for fantasy.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know what I mean. Good for fantasy. I think this could actually be kind of a shootout more so than projection advises, because I do think that this Carolina-Dallas game, I think that Bryce Young's actually kind of turning it on a little bit as of late.
He has been.
I know people like to hate on him, of course, but he's kind of turning on lately. Dallas is bad, yes, but Carolina's defense is junk. So there's three players in this fantasy matchup that are playing in that game, and I think that game's actually gonna be really good for fantasy overall. Adam Thielen's been great the last two games. He's, since coming back from his injury, and he's shown flashes in the past. He showed it last year where he was actually very reliable receiver one for Bryce Young. And so I think he's kind of a must start right now. So I think this is a good start from Al. And then, you mentioned Khalil Shakir and Amari Cooper. I think Khalil Shakir is kind of an auto start for me right now because he's been having some good games lately.
But Amari Cooper.
Yeah, Amari Cooper is definitely probably not there. He hasn't been quite the pickup that I think Buffalo was hoping for.
And Sam could easily swap out Roma Dunze or Michael Pittman, who have both been pretty middling in their own right. But at the moment, he's got Amari Cooper in the lineup.
Yeah, I think this game, though, overall, it could be, I know they're both poop bowl teams, but I think this could be a pretty high-scoring affair just based on matchups. I know it's only projected 118, 125, but I could see this being higher than people think. So
I
think this would be an exciting playing game.
Yes, it'll definitely be exciting. Lamar being projected 28 points is fucking crazy, but...
That's true, yeah. That's his average.
27.
That is silly.
But yeah, moving forward,
some playoff games.
I guess we'll go ahead and talk about my matchup first. We got the 5 seed versus the 4 seed, me versus Alex. Slim Reaper's revenge. Will he finally have the opportunity to extract it? Tough matchup against Pittsburgh for him, but let's look at the projections for this matchup. 126 to 124.5, a very close deadlocked matchup. And if you look at our previous two, in week 2, Alex dominated me a 30-point win, and then in week 13, I pulled out the sneaky 4.5-point win because George Kittle didn't catch another ball. He caught one ball, I think finished with 1.7 points that week, and I only had like a 5-point lead going into it. So needed that win to really secure my playoff spot, got it, and now I play him again. Kind of a vengeance matchup. We're 1-1 against each other on the season. We'll see who gets the better of the series this year. If we look at the matchups, starting off, I do want to say Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase against Tennessee is crisp, primo. Tennessee their offense has been hot or cold. Either they get blown out or they enter into a shootout with with another team. But on the other hand, their defense...
Yeah, it's so bad, dude.
It's so bad.
I think Tennessee keeps up.
Because the Bengals' defense is so bad. That's what I'm saying. This could be another one of those Tennessee shootouts where Tennessee puts up 30 and the Bengals put up 40. That's what I'm hoping for, at least. Obviously, Jamar Chase will get a lot of that. Looking at a couple of other guys, Achane and Waddle against Houston. Houston's got a pretty good defense. They're very young, but they've played great. They were better last year, but they're still pretty good this year. I think Achane is probably going to get his. Waddle is that 50-50 guy for me. I'm unsure if I make a start-sit decision with somebody else. I do think at the moment I am going to go with Waddle just because Tank Dell is so low projected, and Etienne against New Jersey is not something I really want to trust, but I'm not ecstatic about this matchup, but I'm okay with it. Ramondre Stevenson against Arizona, I'm very excited about. Arizona's rush defense has looked really bad this year. Their secondary has kind of turned it on in the past 4 or 5 weeks, but their offense is not as bad as the Titans, but it's very similarly hot and cold like the Titans is. We saw in the game last week what's his name, Kyler Murray throw 2 interceptions in the first half, and like literally within 5 minutes of each other. It was brutal, and they ended up kind of getting boat raced in that game. And obviously the Patriots offense isn't as good as who they played last week, but maybe they can put up a couple of touchdowns. Ramondre Stevenson can hopefully get one of them, maybe a reception or two. And then looking at the guys I'm starting in flex, Devontae Smith against Pittsburgh, like I mentioned at the top, it's pretty tough. Pittsburgh's got a really good defense. I'm hoping that means A.J. Brown is doubled most of the game, and then Devontae Smith gets a lot of action underneath. That is where he thrives. You get the ball to him, anywhere from 5 to 15 yards from the line of scrimmage, and he's really good after the catch. He's also a great deep ball receiver, but due to his smaller size, you don't see a ton of deep ball shots taken to him unless he's just burned a guy wide open. Jordan Addison against Chicago, I am very excited about. Chicago's defense has been really great, don't get me wrong, but I think with a guy like Jetta's on the squad, a good defense like Chicago is going to try and limit him as much as possible, which, similar to the Devontae Smith thing I just mentioned, I'm hoping Jetta's gets doubled most of the game and Jordan Addison gets a lot of work. Looking at the other side of the ball, Alex has some pretty mid matchups and good matchups as well mixed in there. Jordan Love against Seattle is an all-right one. Chuba Hubbard against Dallas is pretty good. Obviously, we talk about how bad Dallas's the offense is, and so the Carolina Panthers should get plenty of opportunities. And with Jordan Brooks going down for the rest of the season, tearing that same ACL again, Chuba Hubbard is the workhorse back once again. Saquon.
I just wanted to butt in. Chuba's been kind of unreal, dude.
He's been on fire.
He's the RB12 on the season, which makes him literally an RB1. I mean, I don't know where Alex drafted him, but
he traded for him, I think. No, he did draft him. It was late draft.
Anywhere near.
I think it was 10th round.
Top. He was drafted by Al, actually, in the 11th round.
11th round, okay.
And he is RB12. I mean, what an absolute gem find. And he has a good matchup. I do think Chuba's going to have a really good week this week, but continue. Yeah. Sorry.
No, you're good. I mean, I am definitely a little bit scared of it. This is RB University, as you know. Saquon, who is the running back 1, projected 19 points at the moment against Pittsburgh. As I mentioned, Pittsburgh has one of the best, if not the best, defensive lines in the league. I think that if any team is going to shut down Saquon to some extent, it's going to be Pittsburgh. Now, when I say shut down Saquon, I mean he still scores 15, 16 points, but it's way better than dropping 30 on me. DJ Moore against Minnesota, that game is probably going to be a shootout. Minnesota or not necessarily a shootout, but Chicago's most likely going to have to throw the ball a lot. Minnesota just puts up so many points that if you're on the other side of the ball, you have to throw in order to try and keep up. Ladd McConkey against Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay's defense has been pretty bad this year, despite how they've looked in the past couple of seasons. But Ladd McConkey with that injury, he missed last week. I don't expect him to miss this week, but he could be limited in terms of snap count. The Chargers obviously want to win in order to get in the playoffs, so if he's healthy, they're going to go. And then looking at George Kittle against the Rams, San Fran's offense has been pretty bad, but George Kittle has been one of the few highlights of that team. I think he's probably going to get his. I am unlikely to get another 1.7 point game out of him, so I need my guys to put up better scores. And then Breece Hall and DeAndre Hopkins. Breece Hall, questionable, missed last week as well. I'm hoping that he's not good enough to go and misses this week too, because, I'm not wishing for an injury, but I'm just hoping that the Jets realize we have 2 young, good receivers. There's no reason to try and bring Breece Hall back early in a season that we can't even make the playoffs. We might as well just give it to Braylon Allen and Isaiah Davis for the rest of the season and keep Breece Hall healthy and let him get fully healthy before next year. But if he does play, Jacksonville is a great defense to drop a lot of points on, and I'm afraid of it. And then, D-Hop against Cleveland, he's been kind of hot and cold. I'm not expecting a ton out of him, but if he catches a touchdown or gets hot, it could definitely get a little scary.
Yeah, Alex has some pretty decent matchups. You're right. At least Saquon has a bad matchup, so I think that is kind of a game changer, because he can drop 40 on you, but I don't think he does that in this game. So, if he goes, 10 to 18 range, you
I'm
take
happy.
that, of course.
I'm happy.
Yeah, you take that from Saquon. So, but I think you keep an eye on Chuba this week, and then you keep an eye on Breece Hall if he's able to play and he's actually healthy. Of course, those guys could really go off. And I think same with Ladd McConkey. Tampa Bay's secondary is terrible, but you have Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase in a plus matchup, and I think with that on your side, it's tough to be It's tough to feel bad when you have that on your side. So we'll see how far they can take you. But if they combine for 80 points like they've been doing, it's anything is possible. So I think this is an exciting game. Um, it's a good 4-5 matchup. So best of luck to both guys. Best of luck to you. Best of luck to Alex.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I do need to score some good points this week, and like you mentioned, Alex has some pretty good matchups, so I'm hoping that I can get the win here, obviously, and continue my run into the playoffs, but it's gonna be a battle regardless. Looking at the next matchup. Sorry.
So I was just gonna say, kind of irrelevant to this matchup, but if memory serves, I think the winner of every single playoff game last year was over 130 points. If memory serves me correctly.
I believe that for sure.
Someone always has a good week. But yeah, next matchup: Phoenix Rising and Bucky and the Bucks boys. Henry and Noah, the 6 versus 3. Henry slotted in at 8-6. Noah is 10-4 with the 3 seed. Let's break it down. Bucky Irving is questionable. First thing that is noticeable. I already kind of mentioned this earlier. I'm not gonna speculate too much on Bucky's injury because I don't really know a ton about it. But we'll see how healthy he is. If he's out, that's obviously a huge blow to Noah because his RB2 situation is horrible. So we'll see how that shapes up. But looking at the rest of his squad, Baker against the Chargers. Baker's had a great season. I imagine he continues to have a great season. Of course, the Mike Evans stack to pair along with that. This has been a good stack if Mike Evans remains healthy. He obviously missed several weeks, but since coming back from injury, he's been right back to his old ways. They're going to get theirs. They're going to score. Chargers are not a great matchup, but I don't think it really matters too much. Jahmyr Gibbs is going to get his as well against Buffalo. I already talked about Bucky. Nico Collins, he's going to get his as well. I think it's more so looking at, TJ Hawkinson, who's been incredibly unreliable since coming back from injury. He had one good game, I think. But other than that, he's been like the entire Vikings offense went crazy this past week, and he only got 8.5 points. So, he's given 5, 3, 5, 8 and that's 4 of his 6 games. He's gone single digits. So, and I think Chicago's defense is solid, like you mentioned. And I think this is kind of a tougher matchup for TJ Hawkinson. So, I could expect this one to maybe be a little bit of a struggle for him. And of course, Drake London there at the bottom against Las Vegas. So I think he actually does kind of bounce back this week. He's been struggling as of late, but I think he has a good week this week. I think Noah's got some solid matchups here, and I think he can score some good points here. But let's look at Henry on the other side. Brock Purdy against the Rams. He's been playing really good football lately. Honestly, what has his last few weeks been? 26. I guess his only thing this week he was horrible against Buffalo. Damn. But he's coming off a good week against Chicago, so I guess I'm more so just thinking recent. But against the Rams just put up a ton of points against Buffalo. I think the San Francisco going to have to throw the ball, especially without CMC. They'll throw the ball. Juwan Jennings is on a heater right now. And I think this is a good matchup for Brock Purdy. Jonathan Taylor against Denver. He's been just very disappointing this season so far. He was a first-round pick. I drafted him. He's kind of made his way around the league. He's been very disappointing. He's only projected 13. Kenneth Walker against Green Bay. He's coming back off an injury, so we'll see what his involvement is. Devontae Adams against Jacksonville, I think, is going to be incredible. We kind of talked about Garrett Wilson earlier. I think that when the Jets' offense is firing, which it's kind of rare to do that, but when it does, everybody gets involved. I think this is a very good matchup for them. So I think Devontae Adams can get a lot of points here. Tyreek Hill has been pretty hit or miss as well. I don't know why he's questionable. I think he's fine though.
He just missed. It's Wednesday. It's a veteran day. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. I figured so. But against Houston, I don't even know how to predict Tyreek anymore, dude. He's not the old Tyreek that we all know and love.
He's not. He really isn't.
He's not. But he has shown flashes. He's coming off 2 really good weeks, 20 and 28. So, maybe the trajectory and it's to better things. So, Henry's going to need him this week for sure if he's going to beat Noah. And then rounding him out with Trey McBride, who's been reliable all season. Jaden Reed, he's coming off a donut. He's been great, but he's coming off a donut. I guess you just go back to the well and you start him. and then Jonnu Smith rounding him out. He does have George Pickens, who's projected not to play, which is kind of unfortunate because I think, it'd be nice to get George Pickens in there rather than having two Miami players. But you got to do what you got to do in tough times. Henry's team has gotten a little beat up lately, so. No, I know this happened to him last year. He got into the playoffs just in time for his whole entire team to explode. So maybe hoping for different results this year. And maybe get his first playoff win in the franchise history. So best of luck to these guys. This should be a good one.
Yeah, this should definitely be a good matchup. They both have some holes on their roster in different spots, either due to guys underperforming where they should be or just not having guys healthy. Got a couple of guys questionable in both matchups, like you mentioned, Bucky Irving, Mike Evans, Tyreek Hill, Kenneth Walker, and Trey McBride. However, like we said, Tyreek Hill and Mike Evans is likely just veteran rest day. The other thing I will say, though, is, I kind of lost my train of thought. I'm sorry. I don't know. Obviously wasn't that important, but I literally had it, and then it just vanished from my mind, so...
All good. Let's. You got anything else in this game? I guess not. Push forward. Final matchup. Do you want to take it?
Let's go ahead and move forward. 128 to 121 is currently the projection for the final matchup in the playoffs. Tush Push Kush versus Riley Reed option. Wyatt coming in at 7-7 versus Tal at 10-4. I'm kind of surprised that Wyatt is projected so highly here at the moment, at least so highly over Al. I mean, let's dive into the players and see where this goes. The only other matchup that these guys played, Wyatt pulled off the dub by 10, by the way. I know why. It's because Tal has Jaden Daniels on bye. Jalen Hurts, looking at the top of the lineup, Jalen Hurts and A.J. Brown against Pittsburgh. It's pretty tough matchup. Obviously, we mentioned Pittsburgh's defense is the strongest, and they are consistently shutting teams down. I mean, I don't expect them to shut the Eagles down, but the Eagles just look pretty poor against the Panthers, and it's, not hard to say that the Eagles could show a similar performance against a much harder defense. Looking further, Wyatt's running backs, Aaron Jones and Tony Pollard, both been kind of underperforming, especially recently. Last week, they finally got on the board, both having double digits, but it's been the first time in a long time that that's happened. Aaron Jones and Tony Pollard, for a second I thought that said they were both playing Chicago. I was like, that's impossible. Aaron Jones is playing Chicago. They've got a really good defense, and then Tony Pollard playing Cincinnati. Like we said, the Tennessee game could end up being a shootout between the Titans and the Bengals, so if it does, you would expect Tony Pollard to get a lot of action there. Brian Thomas against the Jets, he's been good all season, especially for a rookie at wide receiver 10, but against a tough defense like the Jets, and the Jags offense has just been so bad, I mean, you would expect him to get a lot of checkdowns, but I don't know if he's going to put up a crazy high score. Kelsey against the Browns, the Browns have a pretty good defense too. Patrick Mahomes has been checking down to Kelsey a lot. He's tight end 5, which is different from where he normally is, but still averaging around 12 points a week. You'd expect him to get his. And then rounding out Wyatt's team, DK and Cortland Sutton against Green Bay and Indianapolis, respectively. On one hand, Green Bay's defense is, about middle of the pack in terms of the league, and their offense is, one of the better ones in the league. And then looking at Cortland Sutton, he's been Bo Nix's number one go-to guy. He's been really incredible so far this season, wide receiver 9, overperforming where Wyatt got him at. But Indianapolis has not shown the ability to put up a lot of points on offense, and I would imagine that Denver kind of walks away with this one, and Cortland Sutton gets plenty of points. Sam Darnold against Chicago, like we said, tough matchup, but it'll likely be Jaden Daniels against New Orleans. I don't imagine that he'll go with Sam Darnold over Jaden Daniels, but we'll see. Isaiah Pacheco against Cleveland is a pretty tough matchup. He is kind of getting worked back into the offense, more so fully healthy each week, and you start to see Kareem Hunt's role decrease week in, week out. I expect him to, continue to put up points as he gets back to 100%. Joe Mixon against Miami, pretty favorable matchup. Miami's defense is, I think, in the bottom half of the league this season, and Joe Mixon has been really stellar. He's kind of what is saving the Houston Texans offense right now. C.J. Stroud has been pretty mid. And then looking down, Amon-Ra St. Brown and Calvin Ridley against Buffalo and Cincinnati. Calvin Ridley, like we mentioned, great matchup against Cincinnati. If the Titans game ends up being a shootout, he'll get plenty of action. Amon-Ra St. Brown against Buffalo in a similar situation. That game could very easily be a shootout because they're both very good teams, and so he could also see a lot of action. He didn't score a ton last week, but I expect him to bounce back here. Kyle Pitts he's currently projected 7. He's really been the low light of Tal's team this season. He's tight end 15, kind of performing, well under what he was drafted at, both in terms of NFL and in fantasy. People continue to expect him to just perform when he gets a new quarterback. Oh, this year's going to be the year. And I just don't think, Kyle Pitts is an incredible athlete, but watching a couple of Atlanta games this year, the amount of effort he's putting in, he stops running halfway on routes if he thinks the ball isn't going to get thrown to him. He's one of the worst blockers I've seen. Cannot hold a block against any defensive player to save his life. And then looking at the last two guys, sorry, I don't want to spend all this time hating on Kyle Pitts, but he
sucks, dude. Go for it. So out on him.
Jawan Jennings against the Rams, like we said, 49ers offense hasn't been good, but Jawan has kind of been the number one guy, especially since Ayuk went down. Deebo Samuel is non-existent so much to this point. And then rounding out Tal's team, currently projected to start Javonte Williams, who is projected to get 11 points, but that being your flex 2 guy at 10-4, and I've said this a couple of times, I'm really surprised that Tal has won so many games. I think he has won a lot of close ones, but he's also dominated some guys, and he's started Javonte Williams for so many weeks, and he's been bad. He's running back 30, and obviously, I've started ETN a handful of weeks too, and he's running back 34, but I'm not 10-4, and I didn't almost have the bye week secured, so I'm pretty surprised that this is who he's starting with, and kind of explains how he's projected 7 points under Wyatt at the moment. But this game could go either way, and I think all the matchups this week are very close. There's not one that I look at and I think it's immediately lopsided.
Yeah, no, definitely not. I do agree. I think he does start Jaden Daniels, obviously, but yeah, this should be a good one as well. I think there's a lot of good fantasy games to be played, and it would be exciting to stay tuned. I have a bye this week, so I won't be as in touch with this league because I have other leagues to attend to with more important matters. But it's that time of the season again. It's exciting. You just got the number 1 overall pick in Dynasty.
Yeah, I'm paying attention to it right now. That's fucking fire. My tank could not be more successful. Going into week 8, I was I might be competing for a playoff spot, and I lost after putting up 155 to Noah, and I was nope, I'm tanking. First overall pick, baby.
But it's an exciting time of the season, so best luck to everybody. There's 4 games this week. There'll be 4 games next week, and then the numbers will start dwindling. So seasons will be over next week, which is weird to think about, but.
Yeah, we wait all year for it. We hype it up. We do the podcast for it, and then you're only guaranteed to have 15 weeks of football, fantasy football.
Yeah, you could have such a great regular season and then come out here week 15 and shit the bed and you're done. So it is crazy how yes. But yeah, that's all I've got, man.
Yeah, that's all I've got, too. It's a fairly short one. I think it's going to probably clock in around 45 minutes for you guys. But thank you for sticking with us so far this season. We've had some gaps in the schedule. Life gets busy as we get older. But we're happy to do this podcast for you boys every season. It's something that we look forward to. At least I do look forward to, even though it's a lot of effort. I love getting to sit down with you once a week, Kev, for an hour and talking football and bullshitting. So thank you for doing it with me, and good luck to everybody who's playing a matchup this week, and best of luck to Eli in round 2. As we mentioned, he's kind of been sniping his round 2 matchups, if you remember. But
so he'll play either Al or Noah. Or sorry, not Noah, Al or
Sam.
Yeah, so maybe that makes that game even more important because they know that maybe Eli's going to run the gauntlet in week 16. Yeah, it's always fun doing the pod. Hopefully, I know we haven't been at nearly as consistent this year, but hopefully throughout these playoffs we can try and get these weekly episodes out.
I
Although
think
in
so.
2 weeks it'll be Christmas Eve, going into championship weeks. That could be a little awkward.
I mean, there's a
Maybe.
chance we could. There's a chance we could film a live pod in Dalton.
Yeah, I will be in Dalton. That could be an option. We'll talk. We'll have next week's episode. We'll be here. So, but yeah. Best of luck to everybody this week. Best of luck to you.
Thank you, sir.
I'm not playing, but yeah. Cheers, everybody, and good luck.
Yeah, good luck.